Poor chap, he was a regular at this place except for this one day when he couldn't make it, and that was the day when Chris Martin performed. It has turned out to be summer house sadness for him, indeed. But if you don't want to be that unlucky person, you have to stay tuned to this episode because you never know what's going to come next. Because only I know, and the episode is loaded. My name is Gaurav Prethi, and you're watching Gadgets and Gizmos. So phone manufacturer launches a flagship smartphone, it becomes the segment king, and after some time they realize that it is not the king anymore because another phone has come into the market and their phone is missing out on something. Yureka has launched Yureka Plus. What was Yureka missing out on? Let's find out. Micromax Yu brand was a success when they launched a Yureka smartphone in the market. But the competition is tough and the Yureka was losing ground. With the Lenovo Kano that's just been launched in the market and has sold more than 49,000 units already, Yureka was desperately in the need of making a comeback, and they've launched Yureka Plus. So, does it have enough to make sure that they come back? Let's find out. There's not a lot to talk about the design of the Yureka Plus. It looks identical to the Yureka. Except there is a white model available which looks good. We of course are using the black one. Essentially we are talking about a polycarbonate body which has rounded corners and a removable curved back with a rubberized matte finish. It feels nice in hand, it doesn't slip, providing a good nice grip in your hand. The phone also is rather slim at 8.8 mm and 155 grams, which is very light considering the size. Yureka Plus has a 5.5-inch Full HD 1080p IPS display, which is further protected with a layer of Corning Gorilla Glass 3. The display produces true-to-life colors, sharp contrast, and also offers great viewing angles with minimum color distortion at extreme angles. The Yureka was the best smartphone in its segment. It was the fastest performer. Yureka Plus also performs, but it's no longer the fastest performer in the segment, because it pretty much packs the same specification as the Yureka. You have the Snapdragon 615 octa-core processor, 2GB RAM, and you have 16GB of internal storage that can be expanded via micro SD card. Now the same hardware doesn't mean same performance, because the hardware now needs to drive a higher resolution display, hence the GPU is driving more pixels. This certainly leads to slightly diminished user experience in terms of pure speed. The animation switched to a slightly slower rate and apps also take slightly longer to switch when compared to the original Yureka. That said, this is not a crippling difference and most people will be unable to make out the difference unless, of course, both the phones are side by side. The smartphone runs on a customized version of Android called Cyanogen Mod, which is developed by Cyanogen Inc. Yureka Plus is an Android 5.1 lollipop running on Cyanogen Mod 12 out of the box. Essentially, the experience is very similar to stock Android, like one finds on the Google Nexus smartphones, though there are some usable enhancements. At the rear, there is a 13 megapixel unit with a flash, while the one on the front has a 5MP camera with no flash. There's a new Sony sensor that's been used here and it does a good job. It takes some superb photos that offer ample details, good levels of contrast and punchy colors. You get a 2500 mAh battery with the Yureka Plus, which sounds less but does a fantastic job just like the previous Yureka smartphone. If you are a heavy user, the phone will last you a whole day. With average usage, expect around 14 to 16 hours easily, which is impressive considering the higher resolution screen that the phone now comes with. If you want more out of your battery, then you can always go for the Xiaomi Mi Note. Oh, thank you. It's called Jumbo Tea. Lots of products were launched this week and we don't want you to miss out on anything because they're pretty cool. So here is a look at all the launches that happened this week. Wait, chai kahan hai? Isme to chhed hai. Chinese smartphone maker Vivo has launched their new smartphone in India, Vivo X5 Pro. Pitched as a smartphone with beautiful design and latest technology, the X5 is inspired from beauty of drop of water. It comes with curved metallic frame. But Apple never claimed that because the design looks similar to the iPhone. The X5 Pro sports a 5.2-inch 1080p Super AMOLED display which is covered by a 2.5D curved Gorilla Glass. It is powered by a 64-bit Snapdragon 615 chipset and an octa-core processor alongside 2GB RAM. There's 16GB internal storage that can be expanded via microSD card. The dual SIM device runs on Android 5.0 Lollipop based Fun Touch OS 2.1 and comes with 2300 mAh battery as well as 4G LTE support. There's a 13MP rear camera and a front 5-megapixel camera. And the phone is priced at Rs 27,980. We spend nearly 56 minutes on an average typing on our smartphone's keyboard. English is the default language, but there are many more languages in India and people want to use them while typing. SwiftKey, in an exclusive marketing partnership with Carbon Mobiles, has come out with 22 local languages support like Hindi, Malayalam, Telugu and others. The new version of SwiftKey is more intuitive and it's more adaptive, so that's easy to use and type.
If I press on this na, notice what's going to happen with the first row. The vowel row adapts automatically. This was the namaste, right? And then I could say ke saath milkar kaam kar rahe hain. So it sort of try and understands that what would be a most relevant in a logical sentence based on your history on the keyboard.
Carbon launched the Mark 1 Plus with a SwiftKey 3.0 integration called the Carbon Titanium Mark 1 Plus on Android 5.0 Lollipop with the company's new Material Light theme developed with SwiftKey running on top. The phone is powered by 1.3 GHz quad-core MediaTek processor coupled with 2GB of RAM and there's 16GB inbuilt storage that's expandable via microSD card. The phone has a 4.7-inch HD IPS display. There's an 8-megapixel rear camera with LED flash and there's a 5-megapixel front-facing camera on board as well. The smartphone is priced at 6,990 rupees.
Every person is using a mobile phone on an average for about 3 hours a day. At the end of the day, if you are a large user of a mobile phone, you might feel more tired, you might feel headaches, some early loss of hearing. Then what doctors and all have been saying is that there's a loss of sperm count. So you can actually reduce your sperm count and your reproductive ability. Very bad for children. Now children are using iPads when they're 6 months old. They are being given it to play. And their blood-brain barrier is much thinner. SAR rating is for a recommended talk time of 6 minutes an hour. So if you have 1 peg of whiskey, you are okay, it's medicinal. If you have 6 pegs, you've got to do something. It changes the nature of the radiation. It changes the waveform because the waveform that our body has and these chips emit are different.
Samsung Mobile has launched 2 new smartphones in the mid-range segment. The Samsung Galaxy J5 and the J7 will be available exclusively via online retail website Flipkart, which makes the price very competitive. The Galaxy J5 is available at 11,999 rupees and the J7 at 14,999. The Galaxy J5 smartphone comes with a 5-inch HD Super AMOLED display with 720 by 1280 pixel of resolution. The smartphone is powered by 1.2 GHz quad-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 410 CPU coupled with 1.5 GB of RAM. There's 16GB internal storage that can be expanded to 128 GB via microSD card. There's a 13MP rear camera with autofocus and LED flash. At front, you get a 5MP camera with LED flash as well. The smartphone supports 4G LTE and there's 2600 mAh battery. The Galaxy J7 on the other hand comes with 5.5-inch HD Super AMOLED display with 720 by 1280 pixels of resolution. The phone is powered by an octa-core 1.5 GHz Gizmos processor coupled with Adreno 405 GPU. There's 16GB internal storage that can be expanded by a microSD card. There's a 13MP camera, autofocus, LED flash and at front a 5MP camera with flash. The J7 runs on Android Lollipop and there's 3000 mAh battery and Samsung promises 18 hours of talk time. The Indian smartphone market has become like Chandni Chowk. You really don't know which shop to go to, which one is the original, the best. And an American company has entered the Indian smartphone market. It's called InFocus, and Sai was really excited about the InFocus M810 because it looks good. Let us find out where his excitement level is right now after reviewing the phone.
Excited? Can't you see that I'm struggling out here with this power button which looks like a carbon copy of a Sony Xperia smartphone? In fact, if you look at this entire phone, it seems as if InFocus hired a designer from Sony. It looks identical to Sony's Xperia Z3. And you have this really gaudy mirror-like finish which catches fingerprints and will probably not be of everyone's taste. It's really loud, you know. But still, you have to give it to InFocus out here. You've got this really premium metal finish. You've got this glass back out here, and overall for a 15,000 rupee phone, this really looks incredibly expensive. The only thing that excites me about this phone is the processing horsepower that's on tap out here. You get a Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 chipset, which you find in phones like the Xiaomi Mi4 and also the OnePlus One. You get 2 GB of RAM, 16 GB of internal memory, and also a micro SD card slot for expansion. The performance in day-to-day usage is really smooth and you can multitask really well. Overall, this phone impresses and really excites me in terms of its pure performance, especially for something that costs rupees 15,000. Like most phones in the market, this phone is running customized UI which is reminiscent of Chinese smartphones from Xiaomi. So you don't get a dedicated app drawer. You get everything on the home screen similar to an iPhone running iOS. So it's very simple to use, but at the same time, Android purists may not like this because they're used to their app drawer. They like customization, which this phone sort of lacks. So this phone has a 13 megapixel camera on its back. It has a 5 megapixel selfie camera in the front. Overall, the images are just decent. You wouldn't say it will really blow your mind with its image quality because the images out here are soft. So even though you have the 13 megapixel resolution, the details aren't there. Sometimes this phone will also overexpose the images, which is just not nice. And overall, you wouldn't be really impressed with the camera on this one. One of the most impressive things about this phone is its display. So you have this massive 5.5-inch display and it's a full HD 1080p display, so it's really pin sharp, it shows accurate colors, it's got decent viewing angles, and it's also pretty bright. The only disappointing thing about this display is that it's still not as good as the Xiaomi Mi 4 or the Mi 4i. Those displays are still more vivid, they're brighter. If you had to compare this display, then probably this is as good as the OnePlus One. Still a very good display, just not the best one. Now, I've been praising this phone for quite some time, but this phone has one glaring issue. It's the battery life. It's got a 2600 mAh battery, which for a phone which has this massive 5.5-inch screen and runs a powerful Snapdragon processor is simply not enough. The processor really consumes a lot of battery and the battery life is around 8 to 10 hours if you're using it on 3G. Pop a 4G SIM, it reduces to around 6 hours, which is just unacceptable for any phone. You'll probably need to lug around a charger if you're planning on buying this phone. But otherwise, this is actually a very good phone. You get a really snappy processor, you get a nice big screen, you get a decent design, which might look a little off to some people. But overall, for 15,000, it's a good package. But you should remember, you have got some interesting phones out there. You have got the new Xiaomi Mi 4i, the 32 GB version, which costs the same amount. You can get the normal Mi 4, which costs a little more. And you have the Motorola G coming in, which would probably also cost similar.
I am right here. I am the man of my words. Moving on to our gaming segment. This week we are reviewing Hotline Miami 2 because in Miami things get really hot. Let's watch our review.
Hotline Miami was a deranged, ultra-violent head rush with a killer soundtrack that culminated into it being one of the most recognized indie games when it was released in 2012. Now the duo of Jonathan Soderstrom and Dennis Wedden, also known as Denneton Games, are going to take you back to the gritty, violent, neon-soaked Miami, and trust us when we tell you, you're in for one hell of a ride. Not much has changed when it comes to the way the game looks in comparison to the original, but not much needed to. The isometric neon playground the game takes place in bursts with imagination and color at every turn. The pulsing lights glow with intent in the background as you run around literally painting the level red. The original game's soundtrack featured a prominent assortment of electronic music from artists as wide-ranging as Sun Ra to Moon. It was a perfect supplement to the carnage unfolding on screen. The soundtrack in Hotline Miami 2 has been expanded greatly over the original, featuring new artists, several of the old, and an awesome list of songs that act as your personal playlist to aid your killing spree. Hotline Miami had a story that was convoluted and weird, but it was also refreshingly original, daring to laugh in the face of conventions and acting as a commentary of sorts on the player's action throughout the game. The story in Hotline Miami 2 takes place before and after the events of the original and features a whole cast of abnormal characters that will keep you entertained throughout. If David Lynch ever made a video game, suffice to say, it'll be something similar to Hotline Miami 2. Combined with the music and the visuals, the gameplay becomes a weird trance of both careful planning and reckless abandon. Each floor in the game needs to be cleared to progress to the next, and each of the 9 playable characters have unique buffs and abilities. It only takes one bullet to bring you down, which makes it all the more satisfying when you manage to waltz your way through an entire level without dying. The combo counter awards you points for stringing together quick kills, encouraging you to rush blindly from one corridor to the next to rack up high scores. There's something unique about Hotline Miami, something you don't see in many games. It's a hyperkinetic love letter to the 80s era of slasher films. It's hardly formulaic and highly original, but it's not for everyone. The unrelenting nature of the trial and error gameplay means you'll play some levels over and over and over again. The levels here are also larger than the original, which makes dying all the more frustrating. The difficulty level is also significantly higher than the original, with levels featuring enemies just waiting to put you down. Hotline Miami is a game that will stay with you long after you're done decorating its grimy hallways red. It also features one of the best soundtracks that you will hear in any game, period. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and get ready to waste fools.
A lot has happened in the tech world. To start with, Microsoft has reported the biggest loss ever. Apple has made profit and yet it has lost money. It's been a weird week and there's plenty of more news. Take a look.
NASA's Kepler mission discovers bigger, older cousin to Earth. The Kepler mission has confirmed the first near-Earth-sized planet in the habitable zone around the Sun-like star. This discovery and the introduction of 11 other new, small habitable zone candidate planets mark another milestone in the journey to finding another Earth. The newly discovered Kepler 452b is the smallest planet to date discovered orbiting in the habitable zone, the area around the star where liquid water could pool on the surface of an orbiting planet of a G2 type star like our Sun. Microsoft reports 2.1 billion loss in this quarter. Microsoft has reported its earnings for the fourth quarter of its 2015 fiscal year, and unsurprisingly the massive 7.6 billion write-down for its Nokia purchase last year tanked any chances of it returning a profit. But other news is that the revenue and the operating income was slightly down from last year too. Microsoft sold 8.4 million Lumia phones in the Q4 compared to 5.8 million last year, but revenue dropped 38% to $748 million. And Apple Inc. shares tumbled wiping out $32 billion in the market value after disappointing iPhone sale rekindled concern over whether the company can keep making must-have products. Even though iPhone sales climbed to 35% to 47.5 million units in the fiscal third quarter, the result fell short of 48.8 million shipments projected by analysts. That plus a revenue forecast for the current period that missed estimates on Tuesday triggered the steepest post-earnings share decline in the extended trading since January 2013. And while the biggies have lost money, Amazon posted surprising profit and its market value is now above Walmart. CEO Jeff Bezos thus becomes the fifth richest person in the world on Thursday, after gaining more than $7 billion in a single hour, as Amazon stock spiked during after-hours trading. Forbes now estimates his net worth at $50.3 billion.
Alright, so that brings us to the end of another edition of Gadgets and Gizmos. We hope you enjoyed watching it. If you want to know more, you can always visit our website indiatoday.in and go to the tech section. So until we meet next, take care.
Yeah.